How's it going, everyone? I'm Jason, and this is No Perspective Sports, the place where we see people having fun and we decide we want to ruin it. I do that a lot, I feel like, and so I think I'm going to do it a little bit more today. We've got an interesting, probably it's going to be a short show today, um, but I just wanted to talk about a couple of topics. The first one is something that bothers me, but it's not a big deal, but I want to make a big deal out of it, and it's tweets. There are so many tweets nowadays about football, and some of them just seem so unnecessary and repetitive. I see and okay, there are these image tweets where they tweet out like a good, really nice looking picture that someone takes. If it's if I'm following a photography account, I would be really impressed with the things I see. But they're not photography accounts; they're football. Usually, I want to follow them for information or for interesting things. But they can just get so repetitive, and I mean, these guys will pump out 5 or 6 tweets a day, and then like especially PFF, Pro Football Focus. They've got like 4 different football Twitter accounts, like PFF football. I guess it is Pro Football Focus. So they're already there's like the PFF main account, and then fantasy football, and then like college. There's just too many accounts, too many tweets that end up coming out, and they start to look really what is the word, repetitive, over and over again. And they all sort of use the exact same emojis in all of them. I decided to go through and find just in the past month how many use that like two eyeball emojis where like the two eyeballs are like looking to the side, like, ooh, like what are they doing over there? And they use it so often. Here's a quick compilation of all of them really fast. And I don't know how fast it's going, but if it's going too fast, just know that there are a lot of them. It was at least 15 just in the past month. And then I decided to also look. There are a lot of them with fireball emojis, like the fire, because people love calling people they're on fire. And here's a compilation of all those. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. You see them, and it's just getting a little out of hand. I wanted to take a look at some of them and kind of explain why I think that they're taking it a little too far. Here's one tweet that I found. It was July 28th, so about a week and a half ago. And it says Ramondre Stevenson is slimming down for a more versatile role. And then the eye emojis, of course. And it says Ramondre Stevenson is down to 225 pounds via Doug Kyed. And, do we really need a weight update for every NFL player that's in the league right now? If I tweeted out every time I lost 5 pounds, well, I wouldn't tweet very often. But if I tweeted every time I gained a pound, I'd be tweeting every single day. It just seems like such. I know it has some necessary role to, like they said, they're explaining he's looking for a more versatile role. But then they had the picture they have of him is him holding a football like he's going to throw it. Are they expecting him to play quarterback next year? Is that why he's losing the weight? And yeah, there's no. I don't understand. I don't understand the point of the tweet. It seems like they had the information. They're like, let's just take a picture and then put words on it and send it out. And that's what they do a lot. Here's another one. Will Cooper Cup repeat as wide receiver one? Eyeball emoji, And then it says the picture was via Rams NFL. So they took this picture straight from the Rams NFL account, or NFL Twitter account, and then they didn't even put any words over it. They didn't do anything. They just reposted the exact same picture, but just with the caption, Will Cooper Cup repeat as wide receiver number one? And he's like staring at you like, oh. There's no reason for this tweet. You're not giving me any information. I'm not getting any update. Like, he's not injured. He's not more prolific or anything. It's just, here's the picture that they had of him. Let's repost it and add a little eyeball emoji. There's some more. There's a couple more. Here's one. Keenan Allen over DJ Moore. Eye emoji. And it's a quote here. I would draft Keenan Allen over DJ Moore. And that's from Jared Evans. Now, if you don't know who Jared Evans is, you're not alone. Neither do I. And I don't know why I should listen to him if I don't even know who he is. And yet I should take his word that I should draft Keenan Allen over DJ. But this is like such an odd tweet. It like has so little information, and it's from like such a non, you know, what's the word? It's not from like some big source. It's not like the coach is saying, "Oh, I wish I had DJ Moore instead of Keenan Allen on my team." No, it's like some guy who's saying, "I think that Keenan Allen is going to do better than DJ Moore," which neither of them are like top 1 or top 2 receivers. They're like maybe in the top 15. And it's like, okay, well, I'd probably switch these guys. It's like it seems very pointless. They're like I just imagine them walking around in the office at PFF, and they're like, "What did you? Do you have any ideas or thoughts?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm probably gonna eat a ham sandwich today. Ham sandwich. Ooh." They write it down. They take a picture of his ham sandwich and they post it on their Twitter. Jared Evans wanted to eat a ham sandwich instead of a turkey sandwich today. And they put in the little quotes, and it's like really dramatic. Obviously, I'm greatly exaggerating. But that seems to be the sort of vibe that I'm getting. And they're just trying to fill their space with content, which I guess is what I'm trying to do. This is like my third episode within a week. So I don't know why I'm getting onto them for putting out too much unnecessary content. But regardless, here's another one. Don't forget about Terrace Marshall Jr. And then it's a link to a a news, or not a news article, but like an article on fantasy football. They're trying, and I don't understand. I don't know who Terrace Marshall Jr. is, and so it's going to be hard for me to forget about him if I never knew him. So I probably am not going to draft this guy. But I guess, okay, I guess that has more point. It was just funny the way it was read. And look at this. The last tweet, which was 2 days after this tweet, the last one that I just showed you, 2,500 likes, 300 comments. This Terrace Marshall one, 40 likes, 9 comments. I'm not alone. I don't think anybody knows who Terrace Marshall is, unfortunately. And so nobody's going to, you're not going to convince anyone that he's going to break out. I suppose if there was a tweet about Nico Collins, which I'm sure there is, that probably had just as many likes, because nobody knows Nico Collins, the wide receiver 2 for the Houston Texans, who was drafted last year. He's a second year. And I think they did a breakout wide receiver article on him. Nobody's going to know about those guys. It feels like they're trying to pad time, waiting for the NFL season, because they need to keep, viewers viewing. And as long as you take a good picture of him breaking somebody's ankles, you got it. You can tweet that out there. All right, last one. And it's, are you drafting Etienne this season? Travis Etienne. And it has these two stats: total yards, 1,272, and total touchdowns, 8. Except it doesn't say where they're getting these stats. It doesn't say these are his projected stats, or these are his college stats, or, this is, I guess those are the only two options, or they just made it up. They're like, obviously, me as someone who knows, he was injured all last year, so he didn't get these numbers. But it doesn't even say anywhere that they're projected, or that, he. It's so odd. Like I saw another tweet like this where it was Cooper Kupp, and it was saying Cooper Kupp's projected stats, they're crazy. It's like 1,800 total yards or whatever, and like 50 touchdowns, not 50. But it said it was projected. This doesn't say it's projected. For all we know, they're just saying he got this much. He got it this year. We already know. We went to the future. We came back and found out that he ran for 1,200 yards, got 8 touchdowns. So I think I'm probably going to draft him with that information that I now have from these time travelers. And that's all I have on the tweets. Tweets, man. Some people just will fish for whatever information that they can get. That's the thing. If they have an audience, if people are liking these tweets and they enjoy watching, like reading them and looking at them, they can go ahead. I just see so many on my feed, and they're all so repetitive that it doesn't feel like I'm really, enjoy, like I can really consume this for a long time without just being like, this is so boring. This is the same old thing over and over again. I just feel like they should shake it up a little bit. Just switch it up. Maybe come out with instead of a tweet with words and a picture, maybe do like a bunch of big words, but then put little small pictures in between them. I don't know. That is just one guy's idea. All right, last. I can't believe we're already on to our last topic. I only have two topics today. It's going to be a short, easy episode. Next topic, top five exciting. Okay, let me read this again. Top five. Let me try this again. Here are my top five exciting teams to watch this season. I'm going to go over five teams that I'm really excited to see how they do, see how they perform, and see if they, it's usually the guys that either did well last year or they're going to do well this year because they made some big offseason moves. And I'll go ahead and explain which five they are. These are in no particular order, but we'll start with number one, and that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So this is Tom Brady's team at this point, and it's probably going to be his last season. He's already retired. He retired for 40 days, and he came back because he hadn't had enough. But this might be, I know everyone's been saying that for the past 10 years, but this might be his last season for realsies. And from what I can tell, this will probably be another easy division win, unless the Saints do well. If Jameis Winston stays healthy, and then he can do well, because that was the only problem last year with the Saints is they had no offense. And so if Jameis Winston can stay healthy on the Saints, they might be able to fight the Buccaneers for the division spot. But I think Tampa will probably still claim it pretty easily. The real question is, can they make it back to the Super Bowl? And can Tom win one more ring to complete his set of 8? I guess he wouldn't wear thumb rings. I guess that's the idea. It would be really impressive to see if he could come out and do that again at the ripe old age of 45, because he'll be 45 later in the season. It would be really impressive. And I can't wait to see how he does and how he leaves, how his legacy is left. It would, that's why I didn't think he would retire last year, because he retired on a big playoff loss. Sure, his last touchdown his last throw was a big passing touchdown to take the lead, or to tie it, I think, at the end of the divisional round, but they didn't win the game. And it would have been, it was a satisfactory end to a career, but not enough for Tom Brady. I know he wants to go out with a big bang because that's how he's played his whole career. He doesn't want people to forget the incredible things he's done because of the way he finishes it. He wants his ending to be incredible, just like the rest of his career. So I think Tampa Bay is someone you definitely want to pay attention to, especially as it goes down the stretch of the year and then into the playoffs. That's more of a playoff one. Number two, the Philadelphia Eagles. These Eagles made it into the playoffs. I kind of forgot that they were in the playoffs, but they made it last year, and they were like 9-8, so they barely got it. And then they lost pretty big to the Buccaneers, I believe. Is that right? Yeah. That's right. Is that right? Yeah. Because the Cowboys lost to the 49ers. Anyway, the Eagles lost in the wild card round to the Buccaneers last year, but they did do very good with their first-year head coach. I just forgot his name. They have a first-year head coach, and he's very interesting. The question is, can Jalen Hurts do better than he did last year? Because he had a problem with turnovers, and he wasn't as good of a passer, but he was very good on his feet. And hopefully, the addition of AJ Brown, who they got from the Titans, hopefully he can help them to revive and kind of lift up Jalen Hurts' ability as a passer. And maybe they can even win the division, NFC East, over the Cowboys, who won it last year. For one, to keep up the streak of every year there being a different team that wins the NFC East, that would be pretty interesting. Now, I am going to support the Cowboys. I'm kind of rooting for them, but I don't think they might not be able to match up with what their offense was last year. And so I don't know. I think if Philadelphia can compete, they might be able to take it over. And as far as playoffs go, I'm not sure if they're quite Super Bowl ready this season. But hey, who knows? Wild card teams can go on a crazy streak, wild card or low seed teams can do really well. So we'll see. I want to watch out for those guys, and they're fun to watch. I'm sure they're going to be fun to watch this year. They've got good. They've got a star player in all four categories where it matters. Defensive line, defensive secondary, offensive quarterback, and then the wide receiver, A.J. Brown. Those are the four-star categories that I like to pay attention to. If they have one in all four, they could be good. Think about the Rams. The Rams last year, they had all four. Did they? Yeah. Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, and they won a Super Bowl. So as long as you have all four, see, the Bengals didn't have all four because Trey Hendrickson, everybody forgets about him. Uh, and so they didn't. I guess Eli Apple, he also was not a star. He's more of like, people make fun of Eli Apple too much. A quick tangent: people make fun of Eli Apple too much. That was the whole tangent. And okay, on to number 3, the Denver Broncos. All right, you guys already have heard so much about the Denver Broncos this past season because they've traded for Russell Wilson from the Seahawks. Biggest offseason trade, in my opinion. And I think it's going to be really incredible to see what he can do as like sort of a second, revival of his career. Not that his career ever went anywhere. He's been to the Seahawks have been to the playoff. What, they went 9 out of 10 seasons that Russell Wilson was there. He had 9 out of 10 Pro Bowls. It was just last year where he injured his finger and he kind of played poorly when he came back. And I feel like he's just going to quickly rejuvenate, get healthy, and he's going to play great in Denver. And it's going to sort of, I think it might be a Peyton Manning sort of situation where Broncos can never find their own quarterback. So they have to go out and take somebody else's. For Peyton Manning, they just signed him in the offseason. Russell Wilson, they had to trade for him. But I think there's a good enough team around Russell Wilson that the Broncos have already built up that they could easily make it to the Super Bowl in this first year. Maybe it'll take a second year, maybe never. But I think they could do it. And they're going to be really fun to watch, especially all those wide receivers. I know Tim Patrick just had a season-ending injury, which is, pretty upsetting. But there's still Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. I did like whenever they first announced that Russell Wilson was traded to the Denver, and then Drew Lock was traded to Seahawks. They were like, "Oh yeah, Noah Fant is so happy that he's finally gonna have not Drew Lock as his quarterback." I just remember particularly reading that it was Noah Fant that some guy was like, it was like a meme or something where it's like Noah Fant when he realizes he doesn't have to catch passes from Drew Lock, and he's like, yeah. And then they announced that he was part of the package for Russell Wilson, and he's going to be in Seattle next year, which I thought was just too funny and really kind of a bummer for him. But anyway, I do like the Denver Broncos. The only question is, there's so much intensity in the AFC West that if they can make it to a Super Bowl, or they could not even make the playoffs. There's such a huge parity as far as what they're capable, their floor and their ceiling, because of the Raiders just buffed up their team. The Chiefs kind of lost steam, but they're still a really good team. And then the Chargers buffed up their team. They look dangerous. Everybody looks scary. Oh yeah, the Raiders added Devontae Adams. What am I talking about? And so it's going to be really difficult for the Broncos to compete in their division. But I feel like if they can win their division and get a good seed, and then they could ride that wave to a Super Bowl, easy peasy. I'm not saying they'll win. That's the thing. Reaching the Super Bowl is the goal. Winning the Super Bowl is the goal once you've reached it. That's at least what I like to say. All right, next one. Cincinnati Bengals. So these are the last season's runner-ups. Okay, this is what I wrote down in my notes. I wrote down, these are last season's runner-ups. Will they run it up again, or will they get run down? And that's all the notes I wrote for myself. So I'm just going to have to wing it from there. These Bengals, so first off, Joe Burrow looked good in the season, and he looked great in the playoffs. And a lot of people are saying he's really great, and he's going to be an elite quarterback going forward. I think that he needs to find more consistency because he played good in the regular season, and he improved as he went down. And so if he can keep up the momentum and not have to show like the worst side of him with some of the higher interception count that he had, and then whenever he would run out of time in the pocket, I feel like a lot of the times I saw him, that was a lot of O line trouble, I guess, which is a good thing because they buffed up their O line this next season, which is going to make Joe Burrow, his life's going to be so much easier. He's going to be so much more comfortable in the pocket. I think he's going to do great this year, and he's got a great cast around him. He's got those wide receivers from last year, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Yep. And then he's got Joe Mixon still. The offense is going to look super powered, for real. And the defense will be fine. It'll be good, probably. And, they're going to look really good. I think they'll probably win the AFC North again, right? Because unless Lamar Jackson can stay healthy, and even the Ravens are kind of all over the place at this point. He can maybe carry a team, Lamar Jackson could, but I don't know if he'd win the division with it. He needs wide receivers. He really does. He lost Marquise Brown, and he's just got Mark Andrews, who's great, but he's also a tight end, and he can't be the only threat on the team. But the Bengals, I think, have the best opportunity to try and get back to that Super Bowl and then try and win it this next year. And, complete their Cinderella story from being the worst team ever for like 19, 20 years. Besides, I guess, even including the Browns, because they just won a playoff game 2 years ago. 2 years ago? Man, that was a while ago now. 2 years, yeah. They could be, the whole redemption arc of going from the worst in the division and one of the worst teams in the AFC just like 5 years ago to being the best. That'd be great. That'd be impressive. All right. And lastly, who I'm really excited to see this next season, number 5, the Seattle Seahawks. I really can't wait to see what Drew Lock does with. Okay, I'm just kidding. Not the Seahawks. I'm not excited to watch any of their games next year. I really hope, I kind of wish they would just forfeit the rest of their games so we wouldn't have to watch them. Instead, my real number 5 is the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals couldn't keep up the pace of their early victories in the last 2 seasons. They'd win a lot of games at the beginning, go on big streaks. They had a big 8-0 winning streak to start the last season. And then they finished like 11-6. And they lose momentum. And that happened 2 years ago, and they missed the playoffs because of it. They were like totally primed. They were like, 6-3 or whatever, and were totally primed to go to the playoffs. And then they lost 6 games at the end of the season, and that kind of went away. So, can the Cardinals prove that they are capable of getting far in the playoffs, or will they just be doomed to be good and just not great? This is probably Cliff Kingsbury's last chance. And I feel like his hot seat is hot enough that he can't just make the playoffs. He has to win the division and win a couple playoff games to keep his head coaching job. Because if there's another blowout loss like the Rams and Cardinals playoff loss last year, he's going to be fired, I think, unless like there's a really good reason for it. Unless J.J. Watt, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, and I don't know, everybody else on that team gets injured in like the first quarter of the game, I think that his job is definitely in jeopardy. I would just love to watch and see Cliff Kingsbury be on the hot seat. He always looks like he's like worried about something. He's always like, did I leave the oven on? He's always like, I don't know. He's got a very interesting face. And so, it's going to be even more fun to see him actually sweating whenever they're down any game. But yeah, I also want to see how the whole, Kyler Murray's contract. Obviously, that's off-season drama that people just took out of proportion and they just ran with it because it was a story. But there are some things about Kyler Murray's playing and the way he handles himself as a leader and as a quarterback that may show up in this next season. Even though he's got the big contract, I still feel like he's not 100% safe. He's probably 90% safe, and that's contingent on him getting his attitude, just the way he carries himself, getting that in check. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. I just feel like he needs to step it up a level as far as being a leader and, study some film. Yeah, because that was the whole problem with him. He didn't, there's the homework clause in his contract where he had to study 4 hours of film a week. Which they took that out of his contract, which counts as what is it? E-bullying, internet, what online bullying? What is that called? Cyberbullying. All of Twitter cyberbullied the Cardinals until they took that out of his contract. So yeah, I really hope to see the Cardinals do well this offseason, along with all those other teams that I mentioned: the Bengals, Broncos, Philadelphia Eagles, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that's all I've got for you today. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. It was really short, just 2 quick topics, but it's something that I feel like, I need to think about these things as I'm going into the season. I shouldn't just shoot and while, just watch every single game. Obviously, I'm going to try and watch as many as I can, even if it's just highlights and, keep up with the news and everything. But who I should really root for and focus on going into the season. Because if I just end up bandwagoning, I know it's fun to just watch whatever team's good. Honestly, that's an easy way of watching football. It's the grueling, painful stuff whenever you say, I'm going to root for this team no matter what, and then they lose like 15 games a year and, break your heart. But yeah. And then obviously everybody is on Twitter. All the football fans are on Twitter, and so they know they have to deal with all the ridiculous tweets that they have to read. I'm going to go on a small little Twitter rant real quick. During the whole Deshaun Watson thing where they were discussing his suspension, they had gone through first off, the Deshaun Watson scenario was the most painfully, you had to be so patient as a Texans fan throughout all of last year and then all of this year, starting out. You have to be patient still, even. Because, last year he tells us, oh, we don't want to play. And then all of a sudden he's got all these accusations and he ain't playing no matter what. And then we're like, okay, well, the start of the season, they could still trade him before the draft, and nobody trades for him. And then it's the start of the season this year, or the start of the season last year, and it's like, okay, they could trade him before, training camp, or they could trade him before the first regular season game. No trade. And they're like, oh, the trade deadline's week 8. Maybe there's going to be a trade. No trade. And you basically just have to wait until they talk about, until they have the hearings in, was it January, and then it got pushed to February. And then they finally had the hearings, and he finally gets traded. And then they, start talking about his suspension. And then now, because it's contingent, Texans fans still have to pay attention to what's going on, because if he gets a big suspension, that gives us more chance to get a good higher draft pick, right? Because we got we got 3 first round picks, but 2 of them are contingent on how much Watson plays, because he is a good player, and the less he plays, the better, the worse the team's going to do, the better our draft pick is. And so I still had to stay by my phone and be on Twitter and be like, all right, are they going to announce his suspension? And they say, oh, we're going to have a hearing. And they're like, okay, here's day 1 of the hearing. I'm like, okay, are they going to announce at the end? No, there's probably going to be 2 days. Okay, are they going to announce? No, there's going to be 3 days. I'm like, okay, they'll probably announce it in the next couple days, right? And they're like, well, her deadline is not for another month. I was like, oh my gosh. And of course, she waits till like the last week of her deadline to make a decision. Judge Sue L. Robinson, who was presiding over the case, or presiding over she was, what's the word? Not adjudicating, whatever. She was the one making the decision. And I remember my phone would go off with the tweet like every single day. And it would say, Deshaun Watson, 6-game suspension. And I'd be like, and it always would be long enough tweets to the point where it was like ... And then I saw one, it was like, in a world where Deshaun Watson gets 1-year suspension, how would bubble? And it was like ... I'm like, he got a 1-year suspension? I open it, and it's like, It was hypothetical. It wasn't like in this world where he got. It was like in a universe if he gets a 1 year suspension. And there were so many tweets like that, and so many notifications where it's like he got a 6 week suspension. Well, he could, and it's like what? And it's like, oh, rumors say he's gonna get a 2 year indefinite suspension. And I'm just like, this is going on and on. Just tell me what it is. And it even got to the point where Twitter was recommending me fake account Sue L. Robinson on Twitter at on Sue L. Robinson, Honorable Sue L. Robinson. And it was like, here's my official statement. And they literally faked an entire official statement of like, I'm giving Deshaun Watson 8 weeks. And it is so frustrating to have to deal with all the fake news on Twitter. It's like a real deal. Especially when especially when it comes to football news, probably more so when it comes to world news when things actually matter. But enough about Twitter. We finally have the truth, and that's that he's getting a 6-game suspension pending an appeal. More waiting for us Texans fans and Browns fans. I guess they're in it too now, unfortunately. Sorry, buddies. Sorry, Browns fans. Hope you enjoy having him on your team. All right, but that's going to be it for this episode. Now it's actually going to be it for this episode. I really hope you enjoyed. I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Until then, have a nice life and a nice day.